7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This show is brought to you by The Makery, the podcast network for makers.
Hey, hey, hey. Welcome to Knife Talks, a podcast for knife makers. Knife makers? Was that garbage?
Fat Albert.
Cookie Monster.
Oscar. Oh, I thought that was like garbage Oscar the Grouch. I was like, all right, well, as we are, this is a Knife Talk podcast, a podcast for knife makers, knife enthusiasts, and everybody else who wants to have some time taken away from them. We're back. I'm Geoff Fader from Fader Knives. I'm with Mareko Momasi of Momasi Fire Arts. I'm with Craig Lockwood at Chop Knives. We're back from vacation. Hi, guys. How are you? How's everybody?
I mean,
It
not quite back from vacation.
feels as if, Mareko is still on vacation.
Nice. Never mind.
It feels as if it's been about 3 months since we last did this. It feels like such a long time. And yeah, so much has gone on, I suppose. But I mean, what have I been doing? I've been getting these folders out. So I've now got a bench with 92 folders on. 92 of them. And I need
92.
to get 100 finished, completely finished. They're not all finished. 92 to this state, so we're now on a finishing state of them. Before I launch them, it's been really difficult. It's been a real learning curve for me the last 3 weeks. The order of operations in putting these folders together has taken me a long time to get right. So put them together, and you realize, oh, okay, I should have maybe just polished the inside of that first before I do, and it's all these little things. So I've got a bench of about 20, which were sort of what I'm calling a sort of B stock. So I've sent these out to various friends and that kind of thing, for them to have and sort of test for me. They work perfectly, but there's going to be a slight imperfection on each one of them because it's taken me that long to work out the steps to get these knives right. So now I've got 92 in a good place. And I'll be finishing them off over the next week, so there'll be 100 finished, ready for me to launch. That's taken up most of my time, and it's just been, again, I was just saying to Geoff off air how the last 3 weeks, even though we were technically sort of on vacation from the podcast and a bunch of things, I just feel depleted of everything, energy. I feel as if I need to drink a barrel of water every day. I just feel tired. It's been a difficult couple of weeks. It's been really hard. We've been a lot of work has been done on our new house, and we need to be in by October because we need to be out of this house by then. So we've actually bought a big mobile home, which we've had placed on there just in case it's not ready in time.
Wow.
And we've got a bunch of contractors on site, and they're all like a bunch of children there. They all require managing and making sure they've got everything they need. It's just complete head fuck at the moment, everything. So yeah, I've been grateful to have a couple of weeks off the podcast at least. But I feel as if I need a holiday.
Let's just say one thing to the listeners. Just because we took 2 weeks off, it wasn't like, we're not like a corporation where this was like a holiday. This was like, let's just take 2 weeks off from the podcast because I'm fucking exhausted. I'm ready for, the last 2 weeks have been like, not disastrous, but like a production. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
It's not like we're like, this isn't like, a company where we're like, we all took a vacation together because this is all we do for this is like, thank God we don't have to do something for, Friday at 3.
A little side project. Yeah, that's all it was. Yeah. But, a man's still on vacation and enjoying vacation life. Mareko, how are things?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. There's some nautical theme stuff. Let's see. So my wife's family, I mentioned it before, they have a lake house on an island in the Puget Sound, on Anderson Island, which is about an hour south of Seattle, hour and a half, depending on traffic. And it's been beautiful. I've been here Monday. I get back on Sunday. I guess we're recording this Friday. So by the time this goes out, I'll be back in the shop. And it's been nice to get a little bit of a break from knife life these past few days and just kind of chill out with the family, kind of have some low key time, just staring at the water. They have waterfront property, and like I said, at the lake house, so we're just staring at the lake or going swimming in the lake. My son's just getting into like he's played and swam in pools, but he's never really swam in open water, and so he was very nervous jumping into the lake the first time, but he's gotten a hold of it and he's having a blast. He's loving it, and we have some family friends here with us too, vacationing as well, because the lake house has 3 bedrooms, and so they're hanging out with us as well. The kids, actually, I had to kick the kids out of the house. No, they graciously, the moms took the kids on a hike at one of the state parks on the island, so the kids are out. But if you still hear noise and screaming and stuff, it's because like the lake house or the lake's right there and the window's open because it's kind of warm in here. Anyways, let's see. The last time we talked, my back took a huge shit, right?
Yeah.
Like on 4th of July, and yeah, it was pretty gnarly. And I honestly, that week after that episode went out, my back was still pretty messed up, and I haven't really been able to do a whole lot. I've been able to do a little bit of forging, but that's because there's a lot of breaks. There's a lot of downtime in forging, especially in Damascus billets, because you forge for a couple minutes while you're losing heat and while you got heat, but then to bring that billet back up to temperature takes, maybe 5-10 minutes, depending on what temperature you're running your forge at. So there's a lot of break time in there versus like I haven't been able to stand at the grinder for more than maybe 5 or 10 minutes if I'm doing anything, because if I do longer than that, my whole back kind of freezes back up and messes things up. So I've been not very productive regarding grinding work. So I've just kind of been working on some other Damascus stuff and making pattern stuff for other upcoming projects. Other than that,
what's your game plan? What's your game plan for your back? Are you thinking about what you're going to do?
I got I got a chiropractor lined up, and when I get back from this week at the lake, I'm going to get back into a routine with him. When I was 26, so basically 10 years ago, my back went out. When I was actually still working for Bob Kramer, and it was pretty severe, and he helped me kind of get back from that. So I'm going to get back with him. I've been trying to just be more like taking a tip from Geoff and trying to be more cognizant about just being physically active and being here at the lake house. I have not been good about eating proper portions. I guess I'm just like hanging out and just like eating all day kind of things. And our friends that are here visiting, they stopped by this awesome Korean deli on the way down, so I've been eating Korean like the last couple days, and really big rich breakfasts, which I'm not usually used to eating. But anyways, I've been getting back into exercising. I have a friend that I went to high school with who is a physical trainer now. So I've been scheduling time with him to just kind of, it's like I've been an athlete and physically active most of my entire life, ever since I was a little kid, and especially in high school. And so I know what I need to be doing when it comes to physical activity, exercises, stretching, all that stuff, but I'm horrible at keeping myself accountable. So basically I'm paying my friend to stay on top of my ass so that I get this shit done, because I can't do it myself. I just can't do it myself.
Why?
I wish I had. I don't know why. I'm not as mentally strong as you, Geoff. That's basically
I'm not mentally strong. I'm not mentally strong.
You're full of shit. You're not mentally strong.
I'm not mentally strong. I just give myself I give myself a deadline, and then I just make the deadline. It's not. I mean, it's just a question of. I really struggle with
self-discipline.
Me too.
And you talk about discipline all the time. My self-discipline, if it was like a gauge, mine's like basically empty. Like I have almost no self-discipline.
I'm the same.
Where you're at the top.
The only way I can do things is if it's a competition, because I hate losing.
Sure.
So yeah, my self-discipline is really bad, and at the moment I'm trying to lose weight. So I've got various family members trying as well. So the only way we can do it is all doing it together and having a little competition, that kind of thing. And it's sort of.
That's a nice shirt you got there, Craig. By the way,
it's a Fingal special. I see it. Fingal. It should be 3 Fs. Fingal fucking Ferguson, as I call him.
I love
Yeah.
I love his design. It's
You
super
get good shirts. You
They're
get good
pretty
shirts.
cool. They're pretty cool. So, Geoff, your non-vacation vacation. What's been going on?
Well, I hauled ass to get everything out the door before I drove to my in-laws' house, and obviously, we drove out there, and it was 16 hours each way, which was, wrap it up, it's like not great, and
No.
we did it, and it was fun, and our in-laws were super happy to see us, and we had some fun. We cooked some food. I had to I had to deal with some business. Starting off, our credit card got hacked, so I was getting messages that somebody in San Diego was getting DoorDash Chipotle for $58, and then somebody else got goddamn some DoorDash and bullshit. So I had to I'm looking at my emails like, oh, what the fuck is this? So then somebody says to me, you shouldn't be on your email on a vacation. And I was just like, well, should I send DoorDash directly to this person, or should I deal with it? So Tony and I had to get on the phone and, cancel the credit cards, which kind of fucked me up because I tried to order all this stuff beforehand, and that obviously didn't work out. Oh, and then I had to deal with a couple of difficult customers over vacation, which was equally annoying. I took care of it on vacation, which was awesome. And then I tell you what, I had a lot of fun on a one wheel. You know what a one wheel is?
I did see you. You were like a little Gary V jumping around, a little hipster you were.
Hillary's stepfather bought all these toys for the grandkids, including a one wheel. But the kids and the parents of the grandkids are just like, there's no way I'm letting my kid on this thing. I'm like, well, let's give it a whirl.
Really?
Let this thing sit can't let this thing sit around in the garage gathering dust. We got to charge her up and go. They're very cool. They're very cool. And I had a lot of fun on them. And then we were riding, golf carts and all this bullshit. And it was a lot of fun. And I tell you what, I felt real comfortable on it. And every day I was practicing how to slow down and stopping. I felt like I was Tyler Bell. I felt like I was Tyler Bell if you gave Tyler Bell some like heavy drugs and a little bit of hard living. You know what I'm saying? Tyler Bell's a little bit. I mean, I wasn't walking around saying golly gee and hot diggity dog. I was saying motherfucker, this thing is awesome. And it was like, I was more of like a rated R Tyler Bell. And it was awesome until I hit some wet grass and went flying. And I hit the concrete so hard. My shit is still fucked up. My hip hit the ground real hard, and then I still have my elbows all still fucked up. Yeah. And the hilarious part was I got that sweet breath from getting your breath knocked out of you. I'm like breathing, I'm that sweet breath, and then all of a sudden I hear my wife is running up the driveway. Geoff, I heard something really loud. Was that you? And I'm just trying to catch my breath. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. It was hilarious, but it was like
man behavior. That is,
dude. It was awesome because I felt like I was a young man because I was just like, you know what?
Sure.
Every move was just like, okay, this is okay. So like, I had a skinned elbow, and then my hip hurt, and then I was like walking around. I feel fine, but I mean, it was like, give me one of them fuckers again. I'm ready. And then the next day, I went back on, and my father-in-law was just like, "You sure you want to go on that, son?" I'm like, give me that motherfucker. Get that fucking thing to me. I'm getting on it. And I went back and forth and did some more. And I was just like, see?
Back on the horse.
Yeah, it's great. My kid wouldn't do it. Nobody would do it except for me. And I hit the ground so goddamn hard. It was like shocking. The distance from where the one wheel was and where my final destination was, because it stopped, it slowed down, it went down. So the nose hit the ground and I just went running. Like the propelled like 25 feet, and then I slammed onto the asphalt. It was awesome. I'm glad I didn't smash my head open, to be honest with you, but it was fun.
I would have been right there with you. I love those things. I want one so bad.
Dude, they're great. They're expensive, but they're great. So yes, the goal is I'm hoping that my in-laws realize that none of the grandchildren are going to be able to use it.
They gift it to you.
They're going to fucking send it to me because I kicked the shit out of it too. This fucking thing is like,
you made it yours.
Oh, dude, I beat the
Yeah,
shit out. There are scratches
I
and
love it.
scuffs, and it is fucking fucked up. I beat the living shit out of
Nice.
it. And I even said to Ford, I'm like, sorry, man, someone had to do it. And you see, your grandchildren wouldn't do it, so I'm the only one. So it was awesome. I was like the oldest of all the, the in-laws, and I was just like, so that was fun. And then got a colonoscopy. That was a wet and wild ride.
I did
So-
hear you
A
treated
wet and
yourself
wild
for your
ride.
anniversary.
Yeah, it was. I tell you what, I'm glad I did it. But it was such a production, and it was such a production. There was days of not being able to eat this, and days of not being able to eat that, and then fasting, and then drinking all the shit. And I was recording the last episode of the Full Blast podcast with Honor and Ben, which was great. But I didn't realize that I was supposed to take all these laxatives and like stool softeners before the podcast started. So I called him up and I'm like, listen, can we just kind of pull it back a couple hours? Cause I'm just never, I probably can hold on for like half an hour, but like an hour into it, I just don't want to like shit myself. So, so the hilarious part was
Should have done it from the toilet.
well, I mean, the boy, the great thing, Honor and Ben are the best. Honor says in the message, maybe we should all take laxatives. And I was like, we should all take laxatives
In
It was so
solidarity.
funny.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's like, yeah, we should all take laxatives and do this podcast together. That was really funny. And then,
Bit of jeopardy on the show.
oh yeah, so unbelievable. So it was a crazy ride, and then Nico picked me up afterwards, and we did the Full Blast podcast. The Downward Spiral Gets the Pipe episode, which we'll play in a couple weeks. He picked me up high on Propofol. That's what they give. That's what they gave Mike. That was what killed Michael Jackson.
Oh, geez.
So we told I told the whole story in great detail. There's no need to tell it twice. We can listen to it in a couple weeks. But Propofol is also, just to let you know, Propofol, what they knock you out with, which is, I mean, it's a wonder drug. I mean, if I could get a drug to have on hand, fucking Propofol would be my drug, because it is
Just a little.
it's an injected, it's a very white, thick injected sedative, and it's white. So the nickname for it is milk of amnesia.
Oh, geez.
Because you're gone. Like even the nurses were just like, get ready for I'm lying in the bed. I got the coat on. I got my ass on the side. They got me heart monitors everywhere. They're monitoring my heart, and I'm like focusing on my heart rate and my breathing and everything like that. And then they got the thing, and the nurse says, I'm so happy for you, because you're going to get the best sleep right now. And I'm just like, I can't wait. When's it going to happen? And then then they gave it to me, and it was like, gone, dead, no problem. I am perfectly fine with death. If that's death,
how's your
no
moonwalk
problem.
now? Can you moonwalk any better?
I had a lot of gas afterwards, because they pump you full of air.
Right.
But there was no I wasn't sore, and I could walk perfectly fine. I didn't feel as weird as I was expecting. So, but you're going to have to listen to the Full Blast podcast.
This show is turned into the three of us talking about our ailments for what?
Well, this
19 minutes now.
Dude, we've been gone for 2 weeks. What do you expect? We've been gone for 2 weeks. We have to cover our what's going on with our lives. And then, here's the funniest. I'll tell you the funniest part. So I said a couple weeks ago that I had to have the roof over our kitchen done. So I got my guy up on the roof, and he stripped off all the shingles, and he's gonna, building everything back up and replacing the plywood. And there was going to be a freak storm. So he put tarps on the roof and, put like wood on top of it and stuff like that. This was the night I took the laxatives. So I went home after I recorded with Honor and Ben, feeling cramps, like the stool softener was. Oh yeah, I was totally ripe. I was ripe for evacuation. So I'm kind of like, you end up drinking 62 ounces of this fluid that it's this type. Basically, the concept is we can talk about knives in a second, but it's like a salt. Yeah, well, over like 4 hours. So it's not. You can't like just chug it. They don't want you to like. If you chug it, you might end up in the ground, man. It was like I mean, we're talking
in circles on the floor, just fucking blasting
dude,
out.
if I had chugged it, I told my wife, I'm just gonna do it in one. She's like, you're gonna die. You're gonna die. They're gonna kill you. It's gonna kill you. You do it slowly over 4 hours. So I was halfway through it, and then the wind kicked up, and then I saw some of the tarp fall down. I said, I got to get up on the tarp.
Oh,
I got to
right.
get up on the
real
roof.
wind, not your wind.
No, not my wind. The real wind.
Okay,
It was raining, and there was no wind. P.S. When I was going, it was all rain. When I was going to the bathroom, no wind. Oh, dude, no thunder. It was like, imagine taking a 5-gallon bucket and pouring it into a toilet. That's what it sounded like. So I realized I have got
How's that
to
beer
get up
taste, Craig?
I have to.
Water.
I had to get up on the roof and realize that I had to screw the tarp down because it's going to fly off. And if it rains, if the tarp's not on there, there's just plywood, so the whole roof is going to get the inside of the house going to ruin. I'm getting up on the ladder. I got this screw gun, and I'm thinking to myself, "You got a couple minutes. Because shit is getting tight. Everything is getting like very." There's not a lot of like, you feel something in your stomach and there's no thinking. You have to so I'm screwing everything down. I'm starting to feel this rumbling and I'm just like, can you imagine if the leak that was in my house, the first leak that destroyed the leak in the house was from me? It wasn't actually rain. It was like coming out of my pants. Oh my God. I mean, I'm just like, this is insane. So I screwed everything up. And then I was just like, fuck it. If it rains, I screwed everything down and then ran back into the house. I'm just like, don't. And I sent it to the contractor. Just like, all right, screwed everything up. Don't fucking do that again. At least, for the next 7 hours.
Yeah. Oh.
But the rest of the story will come up soon. Yeah. So other than that.
Yeah. I forgot to say it, whilst we're talking about how old and unfit we are and achy we are.
Speak for yourself. I'm fit as fuck.
This week, so what day? Tuesday. We've realised that we don't have enough wood for the winter coming, and we're going to be in the new house, and it's going to be, wood is going to be keeping us warm. So I had to go to the woodland we've got and cut some wood down. I know it's the wrong time of the year. People are going to be like, you don't cut wood this time of year, but I had no choice. I had to go. Got there. All the wood that I cut for last year was stolen. So, and this woodland is the middle of nowhere. It's the middle of nowhere. It was like it's square meters. It was probably about 10 square meters, which is a fair, it's a lot of trips in a truck for someone to steal that. And I'm like, fuckers. So I'm there now cutting trees down and redoing wood. And for the next 2 days, I was on my ass. When you wake up and every muscle in your body is just like crying out, just like, don't move. No. So I was like that. And then, so I mentioned I've joined this band as well. So we have a gig coming up next week, our first gig. So we've been practicing a lot. And standing there for 3 hours with the guitar strapped to you is bloody... I've always played guitar, but I've never stood for 3 hours playing guitar. I'll practice for half an hour a day or whatever, or I'll mess about. But Jesus, after that, cutting all that wood down, then the next day having to stand with a guitar strapped to you for 3 hours. I feel 90 years old. It's just the worst. It's the worst. But anyway, shall we talk about knives? I tell you what we should do first. Let's talk about one of our sponsors.
Knife Talk is sponsored by Even Heat, the manufacturers of the finest heat treat ovens available. To find your next oven, go to evenheat-kiln.com.
Don't go to evenheat.com, but do get yourself an Even Heat. If you go to soulceramics.com, if you use the link in the description, which is knifetalk.net/heat, that'll take you to soulceramics.com, and it'll also give you $75 off your order. So you can spec out the Even Heat that you want. You can have the 120 or the 240. You can have the KH model, all these different models that they do. Spec it out, get your discount, and tell them that we sent you. Thank you very much.
Don't want to miss that 75.
And yes, don't miss the 75. And I think it's time that we do.
Hey, man, can I ask you a question?
Mareko, would you like to take the first question?
Yeah. This is part of the show where you answer or ask questions and we try to answer them. Help drive the conversation. And this first question is from Mr. Devlin Forge. Is it Devlin Forge? Yeah. Hey, fellas, just curious, how would you prevent rust on a carbon steel blade? I made a set of steak knives and gave them to a guy, and there are rust spots, like he didn't get them dry or something. They're made out of coil spring. Just trying to get info. No need to wait for the show answer. I would like to get them cleaned up and assembled and usable again. Thank you for your time. Sorry for the struggle in reading that. What do you guys think? Preventing
if they're not
rusting.
cared for, they're going to rust. There's nothing you can really do about it. I mean, over time they will develop a patina which will help them, not rust so easily. But yeah, if they're not being cared for, they're going to rust. So I think it's education, really. That's what's needed there.
Yeah.
It's not a magic wonder product. Maybe when you ship them, smear them with a little bit of oil, and then explain the situation that they need caring for. But yeah, there's really nothing you can do. I mean, if the guys put them in like a dishwasher or something, you're pretty much fucked.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether this guy gives any instructions with his knives. It could be as simple as print something off on a home printer and add it with your packaging. Just saying, these things are carbon steel. There's a reason for that, but they also do require the extra care. Geoff, I mean, what percentage of knives are you doing at the moment which are carbon steel to stainless? Because I know you've shifted a bit, haven't you, over the last couple of years since we've started the show.
I mean, I've been doing 90% stainless from day one, but I actually I had a Damascus knife that just went out, and I did use axe wax, and it was a very, very thin film to the point where I was surprised. It was almost unnoticeable. I use mineral oil when I have stuff here. I'll tell you a funny story, honestly. Is that knife I made from Tomer a couple weeks ago? Tomer sent me I left Tomer with a couple blades when I was at Florentine Kitchen Knives a couple years ago, and I finished one off, and I did kind of my style Color Lab handle, thinking that it was he told me it was like AEBL. So I thought, all right, this is stainless. And then I finished it, and it was grinding like AEBL. It was hand sanding like AEBL. And I put it away, and then all of a sudden I cut a couple things. So this is not AEBL. This is carbon steel. So I now actually have a nice big rust spot because I was putting something away, and I guess a drip of water came on it, and now I got to refinish it and do something else. So, I mean, I am terrible. I'm terrible. I had a knife I made, Damascus knife I made with Nick Anger at the Center for Metal Arts, and I left it. I put some stuff on it, but I, got a drop of water in it, and then I had to refinish the whole thing. I'm terrible. I got carbon steel knives, and there's always something wrong with them. You got to coat them with something. You got to coat them with something. That's it.
My sort of daily use knife is, again, it's one of Tomer's knives, and it's a carbon steel, it's 52-100, and I've been using that for probably about 4 years, and it's developed a really dark patina. But yeah, it's exactly that same thing. As soon as I use it, I clean it, dry it, then it hangs on a rack where it can dry on the rack. But yeah, once you get that patina, it is harder for it to get these rust spots. But it does require a bit of sort of time and effort to create that. But any tips, Mareko?
My daily use knife is a carbon steel Damascus knife that I made for my wife. And yeah, I think just like you guys said, like a main key is when you're washing it, you gotta dry it. You can't just like let it air dry or anything. You gotta dry it off. And then if you got oil, like a camellia oil, which you can get from most any cutlery store, you can just buy off Amazon, or the axe wax, like Geoff was saying, creates a nice protective film that will help prevent water from, if water is on there, it'll keep it from damaging the steel as much. They should still, even if you do the oil or the wax, you still need to dry it though after washing, and possibly recoat. I've never used any coating of any sort on my knife. I just have made sure that I do a good job keeping it dry before I put it away and store it. And I've never had any rust. I definitely build up all kinds of patina because I'm I'm a little lazy when I use my knife. I'll prep up a meal and I'll just let it lay there until after dinner. But I've never had any rust.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt? Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
With, I want nothing now. You're 100% right. I want to interrupt with a segue and talk to one of our listeners in the live chat. If you want to listen to this live on Fridays, you can go to our Instagram. You can go to Facebook or YouTube Live, and you can interact with the show. I'm going to interact with one of our listeners and help him make a decision. Jocko van Brunhust, whatever. I'm sorry. Wrote, "Shucks. Alex Steele just posted part 5 of his Scimitar. What to choose?" Jocko, let's talk. Fucking Alec isn't going to talk to you on his goddamn whatever, his video on his fucking Scimitar. You can watch that later. If you want to be involved, I'm making a decision for you. You're staying right here. How you like them apples? I'm not giving you a choice. Alec, you watch Alec when you're on the shitter like you normally do. You're here with us live. We're with you, okay? Go save Alec for the shitter, okay?
Jocko probably is on the shitter.
Probably.
Just
All right,
well,
Jocko, check in. Every 10 minutes, we're going to ask Jocko, just make a comment, just so we know you're still there. That's all we
Jocko,
need.
if we are going to berate you if you leave this room. Don't turn that dial or we're gonna harass you, okay? So that's what happens when you join the show live. That's what happens when you join the show live. Oh, everyone's got to check in every 5 minutes. This is the live audience is going to get brutalized. Oh, you all check in every 5 minutes or we're going to start to lace into you every single one of your usernames.
Nick Hershey has just said, I literally just finished watching that on the shitter.
That's all right.
Alex, videos to shit to. Alec is providing a service.
There you go. You can't interact with you like we can. There you go.
Okay, next question. And if you've got a question for us, you can
contact us via DM at Knife Talk Podcast on Instagram. It's that easy.
And this one is from, I think it's Jaomak, Jaoaomak. Anyway, hello, what are your thoughts on putting the maker's mark on both sides of the blade? We've talked about this in the past, haven't we? About particularly if you know your knife is going to somewhere sort of maybe high profile where it may get photographed or maybe on TV, that kind of thing. Because quite often, if you put the maker's mark on if it's a right-handed cutter, it's going to be sort of on the inside of the blade, so it's not going to make the camera, if you know what I mean. But obviously, if you put the maker's mark on the other side, it would make the camera. So I think Geoff, I think you had done this with the previous knife, hadn't you? Or we certainly talked about it anyway. But I see no problem with it at all, and I quite like the whole symmetry of that as well.
Putting it on both sides.
Yeah, I don't do it, but I do like the idea of it, and the symmetry is quite nice.
Except for the fact that all of a sudden it's I don't like it either because all of a sudden the directions are different. When you read one direction. The only way I would accept it is if the other version was the mirror image, so they're both facing the same direction, and it would be weird. But that would be the only way I would accept it because I want to read out. I don't want to read in. I don't want to read in towards the blade. I want to read out.
I see what you mean. I see.
Yeah,
if you've got a logo, which maybe lends itself to that, would be cool. But like for example, mine is it's letters, it's 4 letters, and the reverse of that would look ridiculous. I don't see any issue with it. Reading in the other way. I don't know. I don't do it, but I think it could be quite cool. Maybe
it's very interesting because I just got my signature made into a stencil, and because I usually get other chefs to do signature series, and we get their signature done. I do have one thing funny. Some of these signatures that these chefs do are illegible to the point where you don't know what's up or down. I got one from a chef. It was like a symbol. And I had to decipher because, when you look at the etch, you look at the stencil, you don't know what fucking side is up. You don't know how he did it. So I'm just trying to figure out if I put it upside down, does that ruin all of them? So I had to figure it out. But I just got my signature done and I was trying to figure out how do I do it? Do I replace my old logo, which I'm loath to do. I'm totally against changing logos. I'm against changing avatars. I'm all about consistency. So I might have my logo and then the signature past it. But then all of a sudden it's like, there's got to be some rhyme or reason to it. I don't think I could do one on one side, one on the other. And now I will tell you this, when I get the customer who's adamant about getting their own touch mark on it, they're adamant about getting a stencil made, and they're willing to pay the exorbitant fee of getting stencil for one signature, I put that shit on the back. I put that shit on the other side.
Yeah.
So they have their own side of the knife. It's all theirs, and they don't have to fuck with mine.
This
I would say. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, you go, Mareko, because I've got a little segue to come off this. So you go next.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm not a fan of it because to me, if you were to put the same touch mark on both sides, it seems like you couldn't make a choice. I feel like we've talked about choices we make in our knife making to look purposeful, and if you're putting your touch mark on both sides, it doesn't look very purposeful. Now, if Geoff has names for all the different knives he makes, I think Craig does too, and I could see Geoff's standard touch mark being on one side and maybe then Admiral being on the other side.
Right.
That would be cool because that's a unique thing. And if somebody happens, instead of seeing Geoff Fader or Fader Knives or whatever it says, they see the Admiral, if they Google search, quote unquote, the Admiral chef's knife, they're going to fucking find Geoff Fader's website. So
maybe,
but
you've got a good point.
That is the only reason that's the only reason I would say to put them on, to put a mark on both sides. Or if you're doing, like Geoff was saying, like a collaboration deal with a chef, of course it makes sense to put the chef's name on the other side. But outside of that, it doesn't make sense. I don't like having the same name on both sides.
I'm 100% with Mareko, and I think the other reason why is, especially if you look at Mareko's knives and you look at forged knives, when you look at a maker's mark that's etched deep, that's supposed to be a hot stamp. So when we do an etched logo where it's deep, intentionally, it's supposed to be a hot stamp. So like you can do it with the, like a personalizer, set it on DC on etch, and then you get the, the extra, you go extra deep. You're kind of making a version of what's traditionally hot stamp. So you wouldn't do a hot stamp on both sides. So intentionally, that's what I agree to.
Okay.
We getting too serious about it? I think it's because I yelled at Jocko, and I haven't seen him in a while. I think I've scared him off. Jocko, you still around? You still around, Jocko?
Check in.
Better check in, Jocko. We're counting on you. Otherwise, we're gonna have to beat up Alec.
I was wondering, Geoff, we saw you Instagrammed your signature as a stamp. Does that mean that you're gonna have a signature range, like a core range that you'll always keep, and that'll be like the Geoff Fader range, or what's that all about?
They may be just for Color Lab knives.
Oh,
they
nice.
may be. Haven't really figured it out yet, but it might be just Color Lab knives gets the signature.
Yeah,
because the Color Lab, there's not no one's saying to me, I need this to be 3/8 of an inch thick, and I need this to be. No, it's like when you pick Color Lab, you're on your own. You can throw out a couple of Hail Marys and hope I'm going to say I like red or something like that. But when you pick Color Lab, you're at the mercy. It's like when you go to sushi place and you say, I'm chef, I'm with you. You don't say that, but I mean, when you do, it's like he's gonna give you the oogie googie. He's gonna give you the stuff you might not be ready for, and that's what I'm doing to omakase. I'm gonna give you the omakase, and then you get the signature. I think that's the way it is. Jocko's checking in. I hot stamp my Brute to Forge finished knives, laser engrave everything else. Jocko's checking in. Good man, Jocko.
He's got two windows open, hasn't he? We know what you're doing, Jocko.
He's got two windows open. He's got the only fan page with Alex Steele's only fan page, and then us, right?
Oh, Geoff, do you want to take the next question?
Oh yeah, I turned my phone off. I was having too much fun. Okay, this comes from Sage Knives. Hey boys, can I ask you a question? Is it bad to hollow grind a chopper? I heard someone in a YouTube video say that they wouldn't recommend doing it, and I can't see why that's bad. But what do I know? As much as always, love and keep on killing it. And I only added this because I thought, we never take these kinds of questions. Why don't we? And I'm going to, after we answer this question, I'm bringing up a story that I want to talk to you guys about. I didn't tell you about it, but I'm going to talk to you about it. So hollow ground for a chopper.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
That's got to be on you, Mareko, first.
Yeah, I don't know what the problem would be. I feel like for a really long time, choppers and large blades only had hollow grinds. And then when it comes down to the final actual sharpened edge, maybe it had a quote unquote apple seed or a slightly convex sharp like primary bevel, but then the secondary bevel would be hollow ground. I have no idea who would have said that. And also, are they referring generally to the actual blade geometry before sharpening, or are they talking about like fullers and stuff like that?
I would imagine that he's referring to when I'm not the final edge, obviously. I'm thinking he's talking about the primary or the secondary grind. And it was interesting because I was reading it and I was thinking, I always thought, and I don't really know because I don't really make choppers. I always thought that a chopper was supposed to be like an axe. So you want it to be kind of robust for splitting and stuff. So I would think that maybe a hollow grind might be a little bit too fragile and light.
Dainty.
Like I think you'd want like the knife to be more like a maul or something like that. But I don't know. I thought, why don't we ask this question and say, I don't know, man. Go ahead, make your fucking shit and hit something with it and see what happens.
I mean, that would be a great way to figure it out. But I honestly think, you can take geometries to, depending on your heat treat regimen, you can take it to a surprisingly thin geometry and get very little to no deformation. What is it? A 20 thousandths at the edge chef's knife and chopped into antler, like old dry antler. 20 thousandths is about half of a 16th, like just under a 32nd of an inch.
Okay. I'm working it out because now I'm
tell me you're out.
Everybody listening, Geoff is making a face trying to figure out how thin that is, and with no deformation. And that's only 20 thousandths. I mean, and for a chef's knife, that would be unnecessarily robust, but for a chopping knife, that's great. I think a lot of guys take them to about 20 to 30 thousandths, because part of that thin edge helps you get the penetration of the initial cut. It bites into the wood really nicely.
And that's what you need, penetration. But I would have thought that, traditionally they all would have been hollow ground, as you said, because they would have had, big old, they would have been, a fat hollow grind, if not deep. They'd have been a shallow hollow grind anyway, because they'd had a big old wheel. But I would have thought that would be the standard anyway going forward. So you've got a story, Geoff.
Yes, this is actually a story
time with Jeffrey.
Yes, this is a story that I saw this morning on the news, and it's the only reason why I started talking to my wife about it because it also happens to be if you happen to be in Stanford and things haven't gone your way, wink, wink, you know what I'm talking about. I have a written down itinerary of where to go in New York when you got a couple days to kill in Stanford. I've helped 6 people that I don't know, no questions asked. I've helped 6 people go on this trail, and one of the sites is called the Vessel. I don't know if you've heard of the Vessel. The Vessel is at the Hudson Yards on the west side. It's this big. It looks like a giant honeycomb, and you walk up it, and it's open air.
I've seen that.
Yeah, you've seen it. It's amazing. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
But I guess it's closed. I'm going to read the story. So you understand
a Lonely Planet review at the moment we're doing. We're going to do this each week now, a Lonely Planet, different parts of the world.
Just make your jokes now because I'm going to read the headline and it's not going to be so nice. Vessel closed to public after 14-year-old jumps to death.
Oh.
But I'm going to bring it back.
Went dark quickly.
I'm telling you made the jokes and now I got to bring it back. So don't worry, I'm going to bring it back. So the Vessel and the Hudson Yards are closed permanently because the 14-year-old jumped from the 150-foot structure. It's the fourth one. It's the fourth person who's jumped from it. The adolescent was climbing. I don't think it was necessary. He wasn't trying to. He was climbing the sculptural spiral with his parents and the sister, and he appeared to leap from the edge at 1 p.m. Blah blah blah. The family staying at the hotel nearby. The developer of the Hudson Yards is very upset, and the installation is closed for good. It's a big part of the Manhattan. Like it's one of the new things to see in Hudson Valley. So that's really the story. So I was talking to my wife about it this morning, and I said, if I had designed that, or was on the approval board or was one of the builders, but especially if I was the designer, I couldn't sleep at night knowing that 4 people had, plunged from their deaths. Maybe on purpose or not on purpose, it don't matter. I said to myself, I didn't think I could deal with it anymore. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't live with myself knowing that I designed something that people killed themselves from. Now, here's the question. We're knife makers. Somebody has one of your knives and they either hurt someone very badly or themselves with your knife. Are you still going to be a knife maker? And I'm going to start off, give you a minute, because I was talking to my wife about it and I said, if one of my knives was involved in something like that, I would stop making knives because it would be too hard for me. And I'm not trying to be like, I know Doug Markite will kill. For some reason, that has never been something that I think is something to be smile about or be cute about. I find it to be actually quite disturbing, but that's my opinion. If one of my knives was involved in something like that, no problem. I got something else to do. I'm not going to do this anymore. And I would be devastated. Devastated. How would you feel if something that you designed was involved in something hairy like that?
Yeah.
No, it's always a possibility, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I've given this a lot of thought really in the past because for some people that's their sort of marketing shtick as well,
Right.
Oh, it will kill, it's a weapon, and some people's bios, we make weapons, that kind of thing. And I know there's a different sort of mentality in the US with knives, and hunting is a much bigger thing over there than maybe it is over here. But I'm always very careful with the sort of language that I use, whether it's on the website or wherever it may be, that these are primarily culinary knives. I did do a different style of knife for a while, but yeah, it's a real difficult one. And even now with this folder, the whole idea is this is going to be something that people are going to be carrying with them at all times. So there's a chance that if they're in any sort of conflict, that people may sort of get this little knife out, and I've got a knife, whether it's to defend themselves or not. And it's a difficult one because I'm completely I'm very sort of anti-violence, and any sort of confrontation I'm very much against anyway. It's difficult, but I think if you're trading under that kind of I sell weapons, it's probably going to happen to you because the people who are buying them from you, they see them as weapons. I think if we've marketed correctly, but it's used incorrectly, and something does happen, I think I'd be okay with it. I would be okay with it, but I think my conscience would be okay with it.
Let's just take marketing out, because if you look at the vessel, that vessel was built as a sculpture. It was not intended to be like a it wasn't intended for people to fall out of. And it wasn't, and especially considering like the planning boards would have been involved in the approval of it. That's why I was thinking if I was on that planning board, I wouldn't be able to sleep because I said that this is going to be fine. Or if I was the architect, I'm getting like goosebumps thinking about it. I would, if I had any involvement in it, even when I'm saying you're removed from its, so with the knife making, don't worry about the marketing. It has nothing to do with the marketing. This is somebody grab one of your knives and fucking plunge it into somebody off the kitchen block.
But this could go like the way of, you mentioned how cool a one wheel was. Let's say a little kid heard that and goes out and buys a one wheel, then gets in an accident. I'm
not making one wheels anymore.
But you're gonna, but are you gonna feel terrible because you said how cool they are?
Not how cool they are. I have nothing to do with one wheel. If I made one wheels, what about that fucking guy from who made the two wheeler who went off the cliff? I would have a problem with that too. I wouldn't want to be involved in that. And I'm 100%. I mean, I'm just being very honest, and we're obviously trying to come up with something. We're coming back from vacation. We're trying to give you a little bit of blood pumping through your veins. I'm not talking about like, somebody. Nick Hershey says depends on the detail. Was that self-defense? Don't like lock me into some sort of like. Well, it depends. Somebody takes a knife and plunges it into someone else, and it wasn't intended. That wasn't the intended purpose of what you were making.
Yeah.
Are you going to continue doing it?
Yeah, I personally, yes. I'd feel terrible, but I think I'd have a sort of clear conscience that, it's not a tool that I've made deliberately for somebody to do that with.
Of course.
So I think I'd have a clear conscience. It'd be a terrible thing, but I personally, I would continue doing what I'm doing.
Mareko,
you've been pretty quiet. You've given this a lot of thought. What do you think?
give it some thought.
Oh, I mean, how the fuck am I supposed to talk with you guys rattling back and forth at each other? No, I'm just
You
teasing.
want some good shit? You want some good shit? You gotta get that in there. Come on, man.
I'm actually with Craig, honestly. I mean, obviously, that's the thing I'm making is not made for that intent, but how people are using them after they receive them is that I don't think that's on me personally.
Okay.
I obviously would feel horrible. It would be incredibly regrettable that that happened with one of my tools, but I don't think I would need to quit making knives. I mean, I don't know why I would need to stop making knives.
People. What if they like the whole thing is the
if it became
vessel,
a trend, if it became a trend that people were killing each other with these fucking expensive knives, then I'd be like, maybe I'm not going to be making expensive knives.
This is what
But
I'm
if it was
talking
one
about.
like a weird one-off thing, like I don't know if that would be a reason.
I'm
for me to
talking
quit
about
knife
they're
making.
closing the vessel down
Yeah.
because 4 people have jumped from it.
Yeah.
4. So it's not like one random thing. I know somebody wrote in the thing, what if somebody cuts it? I've gotten messages from people that cut themselves. I'm not like, all right, I'm stopping making knives anymore. I'm talking about you got a trend of 4 people, 4 people put it on it. 4 people got put on with one of your knives unintended because you're supposed to be cutting celery. I'm quitting. I'm starting something else. I can do something else. I'm like, fuck you, man. I'm gonna make something else.
Sure.
Oh, I wouldn't do it. I couldn't. This to me is wonderful. I love this life. I love everything about it. But my mental whatever is far more important. I couldn't do it.
Why do you
I could
feel
do
like
4
you're
people.
responsible for it?
Okay, Jeff.
I'm not feel responsible, but I would feel some sort of.
Isn't that you feeling responsible for it though? And
No,
so much
I mean,
so that you would have to quit?
maybe not responsible for the action, but like I'm putting it out in the world and it was perceived in a way that it wasn't intended to be. I would feel a degree of responsibility for that, probably to a certain degree. I know for myself, I wouldn't be able to sleep. 4 people, I'd be like 4 different people, 4 different knives. I'm hanging it up. I'm gonna make something else. I'll make some lures again. I'll make some whatever. I'm just poking that question out there.
So
I mean,
let's say,
obviously, you guys are far more interested in money than you are in
it has nothing to do with
the
money.
public. Oh, it has nothing to do with money. Yeah.
So let's say
100%. Yeah.
let's say we finish
Go
this
ahead.
podcast now. You jump in your Jeep there behind you. You roll out to the shop and
Right.
somebody's on a one wheel behind and you hit them
Yeah.
over. They're paralyzed. They're in a bad way. You're never driving again. That wasn't your intention. It was never
It is going to haunt me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Oh, like
I see that.
The
yeah.
people involved, even the minorest details. I'm not talking about the guys like putting the screws into, putting the screws in for the vessel, but like there should be. I mean, as a human being, strip away all these like legal terms and all these like, well, I'm not sleeping. So if I'm not sleeping because I feel guilty and I'm racked with guilt, you can't really. You have to work through that, right?
It would be difficult. Tim Brown, I think I'd be okay, but I do design ammunition for the defense. He's a warmonger. We've got a couple of warmongers.
Well,
in the chat.
it's fine. I'm not saying. This was just. I was in the bathroom this morning and I saw this article and I just thought this is an interesting topic and I thought maybe we needed an interesting topic. I just believe in my heart, and I'm not saying I don't need to be like here, Jeff. It's not your fault. I know I wouldn't sleep. I know I would need some deep, dark, like real self-reflection. And I'd be like, fuck this. I'm not doing this anymore. I can do something else with definitely feeling as though I'm being, that something that I've produced and put out in the world will be helpful and not something that could be done, but not be irresponsible is not a word, but something like that wouldn't happen. Of course, you could be in the 2x4 business and somebody hits somebody over the head with a 2x4. Are you going to stop making 2x4s?
With a really good comment.
Go ahead.
So what about?
Just put your maker's mark on the left side so the news cameras don't see it.
Nick Hershey going downtown. That was a good job, Nick.
So what about this kind of perspective? So if somebody is intent to hurt you with a knife, and it just happens to be yours, but honestly, take your knife out of the picture. Like if somebody's intending to, then
of course.
So I feel like to allow the event, something it just ended up being used in that case. I don't.
I'm going to say something that you might
Again,
not
obviously
like.
it'd be terrible, but I don't think I would. I wouldn't feel responsible for that at all.
What you just did was you negotiated your emotional and mental state. You negotiated down how you wouldn't feel. You did. That's what that was. It's like, well, if it was like,
I'm really trying to
these
think
assholes.
about it.
I'm sure. I find it to be a fascinating conversation, and something we never talk about. I'm full blasting you guys, by the way. If you just didn't realize that, I just realized, So, it's true. People say this, like, you say to someone, well, if I walk down the street and hit by the car, what's the difference? I'm not talking about getting hit by a car or whatever. I'm talking about, like, I know. I get a report. Four of your knives were in 4 different, crime scenes. I would have a hard time with it. I would have a real hard time with it. I would have a hard time if somebody used it for self-inflicted problems or wounds. I would have a real hard time with it if it was used to menace someone. I would have a hard time with it. Regardless,
it's a great episode of Murder, She Wrote. And then they've got your signature on the knife as well, Geoff.
Listen, Eddie Jits, and
it turns out you're the murderer.
Go ahead. Eddie Jits, my man Eddie Jits. Eddie Jits is the greatest. He's trying to Eddie wrote, question for you. Someone breaks into this is what everybody does. Someone breaks in your house. I'm not talking about breaking into your house. I'm talking about somebody find out about it. Someone breaks into your house and one of your customers' homes, grabs a knife and defends themselves and kills the assailant unintentionally while defending her own life. What do you do? I say job well done. I'm not like, I'm really upset. Part of this happened because I've actually had a rash of people having my knives stolen. I had a winemaker out in California who was very upset because he left his car keys in his truck. So got in the car, opened the garage door opener, went in, rummaged through, and took one of my knives. That bothers me. It's had like 3 or 4 times it's happened. It bothers me. Yes, of course. You want to give me a scenario, guys? Feel free to give me a scenario, but prepare yourself for the answer you're not prepared for, because it's going to be just like, I'm not going to be falling for the banana in the tailpipe. If you want to, obviously, if it's a situation, we're not talking about like, person's a good person or bad person. I'm talking about like, if the dude was thrown off the vessel, that's a different story. If you throw someone off the vessel, then you don't feel so bad because the guy was a piece of shit. But the guy's kid slips and falls, or he kills himself, then you feel slightly, it shouldn't happen. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay, I know we do want to change the situation to see
how
you feel about it. Let's say you're still in the restaurant. Or let's say you're not in the restaurant business. You invite a friend over for dinner.
Go ahead.
They choke on an olive.
Yeah.
That you've served them.
Olives are gone. Out of the house. But no more olives. No more olives. No, keep going.
How do you feel then about, inviting people over and cooking for them again? Because it's the same thing. It's that unintentional thing. You didn't make this knife intentionally for somebody to use it to harm, the same as you didn't serve the olive.
Funny enough, if that had happened and we had to give the Heimlich on someone, the next time we invited someone over, I guarantee you my wife would say, you're not serving olives this time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right. It's just like, we're going to have a problem with olives, right? We got that squared away. It would be any time I bought olives, anytime I even looked at olives, my wife would be like, no, remember the last time that happened. Remember the last time there were olives.
Okay, olives.
Let's get going here. Come on.
Are they anchovy stuffed olives? Those are the best.
I don't
ones.
know.
Oh my god.
There we go. So that was my story of the. Should I do this every so often? Should I come up with?
I like it. Yeah.
I will come up with a full blast question for you two for us to get our blood pumping.
Geoff gets deep. Okay, let's have a word from one of our sponsors.
Combat Abrasives makes the world's best abrasive belts for knife makers. Available in any size at unbelievable prices. Go take a look at combatabrasives.com and get 15% off with promo code KnifeTalk15. Do it now.
15% off. You'd be a fool not to. And that reminds me, something else that I've been doing the last 2 weeks. So that was Brian from the Work For It podcast. And Geoff has already mentioned his podcast, which is What's it called again, Jeff?
The Full Blast podcast.
Oh, yes, that's what it's called. They're part of the Makery network, and a lot of people have been messaging me saying the Makery website is down. That's been for a reason. I've been working on it, so it's having a sort of relaunch, completely simplified, so it's a lot less work for me. And that should be live by the time this goes live on Monday. So there's a bunch of shows, obviously, on there. Everybody can link to all the shows, and it's a nice way to just discover new content. So yeah, the Makery.network will be back again on Monday morning.
Jocko, you still there? Check in with Jocko. Grateful Knives wants to know if you're still there. You still there, Jocko?
I'm still alive.
All right.
Okay, shall we take another question? Mareko, do you want to take the next one?
Yeah. This one is from Tradition Knives. Can you dive into the restrictions/requirements for sending a knife in the mail in the U.S.? And is there a preferred method between USPS, UPS, or FedEx? What do you think, Jeff?
Within the US, Jeff, that's got to be you.
Unless it has a lithium battery in it, I don't think you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
Jocko's checking in. Aye, Captain. Yeah, I think the mail. Good job, Jocko. We're with you 100%. I think that I remember when I was a kid, I used to go through, I was at Cabela's or Bass Pro Shops, and I was looking at like whatever, and it would have these restrictions on where you can sell certain things, slingshots and stuff like that. And sure. I always wondered where that is. So if you put something in a box and you send it in the mail and it goes to another address, and it's not like these are getting x-rayed. I mean, I can't imagine. I think that if you're caught with them, it's a problem in certain states and stuff like that. But in the United States, I've never heard of any problems. Actually, my sister used to say to me, she said, "You're sending a knife in the mail? Isn't that illegal?" I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Use a fucking carrier pigeon?
Hand deliver it.
Yeah. I mean, no, it's not illegal. No.
It is illegal in the UK, which is crazy.
But how would they know?
Exactly. I mean, for me, a lot of my customers are in the UK, and I need to fill like an import-export form because I'm not in the UK. And it specifically says on there that no weapons or knives. And again, we talked about that whole whether the knife is a weapon or not. But it specifically says the word knives allowed. And even, third-party carriers such as, DPD, DHL, and all those kind of things, they all stipulate no knives. So technically, nobody should be shipping knives into the UK. I think Amazon UK removed all knives from sale for that reason. But I literally this will wind Jeff up. I just, when you got to list what you have, I just write art or table art just to confuse them.
I got no problem with that.
Table art.
Yeah.
You want to say your stuff is bullshit? That's fine by me.
Yeah. So I don't think anybody's checking. But yeah, technically, it's very difficult to sell knives in the UK because you can't ship them.
But these restrictions have nothing to do with the mail. Like there's no way that there can be an analysis of all the packages that are flown around. I mean, people are sending weed in the mail.
Yeah.
People have been sending weed in the mail for years. In regards to, whatever. But in regards to using UPS, FedEx, or United States Postal Service, I'm a fan of the Postal Service. I really like it. I've had very, very few problems with it. UPS, I find to be extraordinarily expensive, very expensive. And FedEx is expensive too. Both of them are also not close to where I live. And I've created a relationship with my postal people, and I like the post office. In regards to sending stuff, the only thing I worry about is stuff getting stolen. I actually had a knife that was stolen from Henry Golding, Snake Eyes, and I had to remake the knife for him. But it was stolen out of his house. I didn't have to make it. I wanted to make it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I honestly trust especially within the United States, I trust the USPS. I haven't had any experience or reason to not. And like you just said, Jeff, like the UPS and FedEx are both extremely expensive for shipping in the United States. And since I've started doing registered mail, like I'm capable of fully insuring my knife for $12.46 or whatever it costs, on top of the normal packaging cost, or not packaging cost, but the cost of shipping whatever package I bring in, and it gets there no problem, and I feel good about it. And yeah, again, regarding restrictions, yeah, I don't think there are any restrictions in the United States. There might be certain, like what is it? I think like in Washington State, like a switchblade is technically illegal, but in Oregon, it's not. But again, who's like Jeff said, nobody,
Right.
yeah, nobody's scanning them. Nobody's gonna know. Like, wait a second, is this a switchblade?
Yeah.
That's the thing that I find to be, I mean, you know, it's similar to this whole COVID thing. I mean, people aren't, I was talking to somebody where, you know, people in the United States thought that the police were going to start knocking on your door at Thanksgiving, depending on how many cars are in your driveway. Never happened. You know, I think that, you know, I think that they're more, I'll tell you what's interesting is when I was flying to California a couple of years ago, sorry about the wind, guys. You know, we're whatever. I was flying to California. I'm past that. I'm past that, so to speak. I'm past all that, so to speak. When I flew with a pile of knives and we put them under the plane, you know, we checked them. I was concerned that there was going to be some sort of extra, you know, questioning. And when the woman, you know, I was giving the woman, I said, "These are, you know, kitchen knives. Is that okay?" And she goes, "Are there any lithium batteries in there?" And I said, "No." And she goes, "I don't give a fuck." You know, she didn't say I don't give a fuck, but it was basically like, I don't care what's in there as long as it's not a lithium battery.
I wish she did say that.
Yeah,
right.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? This all reminds me of something. Actually, I wanted to talk a question for you guys. You know, Mareko and I were talking about how, I mean, UPS is very expensive. Like you know, it's crazy. Like even just, you know, very close.
It doesn't make sense why it's
well, it does
so
make sense
expensive.
because it's you know, the drivers are all Teamsters. You know, it's a union. It's a union. It's a union
I
job.
haven't thought about that aspect. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this was interesting because it made me think about the restaurant business. We do culinary knives in the restaurant business, and so what was that again? So somebody said according to
USPS, some mail is X-rayed apparently.
Then yeah, I don't like I said, I'm under the impression that it would be crazy to be able to decipher some, you know, like Cliff Clavin from Cheers at the post office is deciphering a switchblade from a slip joint. But what it made me realize was thinking about like, okay, so you're paying extra for UPS because they're Teamsters. It made me think about the restaurant business in terms of like, there's these, you know, there were these people saying, you know, we can't get people to go back to work. And the solution is to pay the people more money, pay the workers more money, and then they'll want to come back to work and not be on the dole. And it made me realize, and it's just a similar thing with the UPS versus, you know, everything else is then it's on the consumer to make the decision whether they're going to pay more for the food, because all of a sudden you're paying everybody $15 an hour, and then your hamburger went from $5 to $25, and then you have to decide if it's too expensive for you. Same thing with supporting UPS. You know, you could say I support unions, and so I'm going to pay a premium and use union labor and go with, but we're cheap. We might not say I want to use UPS because it's a union. I don't, you know, I just want to get the cheapest price. And I was just interested to see what you think in regards to that. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
Makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. It's always that short-term thing, isn't it, as opposed to the long-term goals, you know? Most people don't think that far ahead, whereas, you know, let's say you're buying a pair of trainers or whatever it is. It's the same product every year, but you want to get it as cheap as you can. Right. You don't think of what is really happening. There's a store owner there who's making less of a profit than, you know, somewhere else where they're making a bigger. You know, people don't generally do that, do they? They think of the impact on themselves in that moment. They don't think about the longer term things. But yeah, I mean, it's something that, you know, would be different over here because we don't have actually we do have in France, we do have a government run post office called La Poste, and that is really our only option unless we go to FedEx. But
or DHL or something like that.
Exactly, yeah. But you know, for me here, I live in an area where they don't even cover FedEx say they'll cover the whole world, but they will come here, but for an extra €150 kind of thing, and for one package, it's really not worth it. Yeah, it's a difficult one, and it's particularly when it comes to things like you said with food and things like that. The value of things, the value is what it's worth to you, and I think you're not necessarily thinking about the welfare of we've all got iPhones in our hand. We all know what the real welfare situation is there for the people who are making these, But
you can also bring it
easy
back
to
to
put
the
blinkers
knife
on.
world. Bringing it back to the knife world, Tony and I we dealt with an organization who decided to go with what we refer to as the slow boat from China knives. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
Like kind of the high end, the higher end cheap knives that come over from the slow boat from China. And you could also make the point of like, well, how do we rationalize that in terms of as custom knife makers too?
Yeah,
Very interesting.
It's an interesting one. It's a difficult one. But yeah, I think getting people to see over the short-term benefits is quite difficult. Personally, Jacko, are you accepting?
I was going to say the same thing. That is a perfect segment. The perfect
are you accepting
segue.
calls? We're not, but if I can give you Alex's number if you want. If you want to ring Alec, I can give you his number.
We
see
actually
if he'll
could
pick up.
Let's give him his number. Have him call Alec. Jock, are you still there? Buddy?
Okay, Geoff, do you want to take the next question?
Yes, this one comes from Michael Berg Falk. I don't know if that's the right name, but I'm sorry, man. Hey guys, long-time listener, first-time caller. I was wondering if you could go over some of the finer points of a subcritical anneal. Love the show. Mareko? Let's talk about what that is. What actually, I think that there's a lot of people who want it to be demystified what a subcritical anneal actually is and what purposes and where you put it in the heat treatment process.
Right. If you really want to understand the nitty gritty, get Dr. Laren Thomas's book, Knife Engineering. Stop asking us. I'm just joking. So the subcritical anneal, it's a thing that you can do after forging or even grinding. It's something you do before your final hardening. In my heat treat process, what do I do? So I do a couple grain refining cycles. And then on the third one, I do a full harden, a quench and a full harden. But then I do a subcritical anneal after that. And what I've been doing in those previous thermal cycles is I'm refining the grain, but I'm also kind of reorganizing the distribution of carbon throughout the steel. And then when I do the subcritical anneal, or what Dr. Laren Thomas would call a temper anneal, a martensite anneal, is because you're annealing from martensite rather than a different form, crystalline structure. And that also helps there's something about it, I can't remember what it is, but what it does is it kind of spheroidizes the carbon that is in the iron matrix in the steel. And it also studies have shown that knives show greater toughness at similar hardnesses as others who haven't gone through the temper anneal or the martensite anneal. And it's kind of something about the grain, the austenite grain, and like each of the spheroidized carbon within the iron. This is why you got to get the book, because I'm an idiot trying to explain this. We got to get Laren back on it. But basically, it helps. It kind of like with the even distribution and the ultimate final hardness and toughness of the steel when you harden from tempered martensite rather than rather than like a pearlite structure or some other crystalline structure.
So basically, I mean, from what I understand, the simplicity of it all is it's not normalizing. It's similar, but you're slowing it down at this critical a lower temperature than the critical temperature, and it's a long, slow cool down that makes it kind of more like being annealed. Making it soft so you can kind of fool around with it, and you're having a very, very low grain structure. Low is not the right word.
Yeah, it's
Fine.
like 1250 Fahrenheit is usually where people are doing their martensite tempers or subcritical anneals.
This reminds me of a question to ask you guys. No, I'm just kidding. It would be funny
And
if
how does that make you feel?
yeah. If a guy named Martin came over to your house, the knife,
And his wife Pearl, yeah,
and his wife Pearl, Martin and Pearl.
on site, yeah. So
There you
let's
go.
talk about another one of our sponsors, and this is a really cool one because we've worked with Dharma Steel. And we did the chef invitational, that kind of thing. So what we're doing, we're calling out a Dharma Steel knife of the week. So if you use Dharma Steel and you tag that on Instagram with a picture of it, and you tag Dharma Steel and tag us as well, we'll pick the best one and we'll talk about it on the show. So we've got a lovely one this week, and this is from actually a friend of the show as well. First of all, can either of you guys guess whose work this is? So if you're watching live, you'll be able to see the image of the. I think it's quite obviously this guy's work. Who do we think it is?
Joshua Prince.
It's Josh Prince, yeah.
It is Prince Works Forge. Amazing knife, beautiful knife. And again, if you're watching live, you'll be able to see this image. It'll be in the video that we'll put live on Monday.
But that
as well.
could be an Andreas Kalani hand. You could say that was an Andreas Kalani hand with all the bracelets.
The bracelets. I like the blade profile. It has a nice, like a French chef's knife kind of profile to it.
It's a lovely looking blade. It really is. And this one was Eating Tools actually sort of reposted this and explained that it's a Dharma Steel knife. And so I went to Josh's profile, found out a bit more about the blade. So the actual handle is made with holly wood, not Hollywood, holly wood. And it's got some cherry G10 there, I assume as some sort of liner between that bolster, maybe. You can't quite see. And the pattern, the Dharma Steel pattern is a Heimskringla, I believe. Heimskringla. But it's a beautiful, beautiful blade. And if you want to make a Dharma Steel blade, if you set up an account on, I think it's dharmasteel.com maybe, you'll find Dharma Steel online. They're everywhere. But if you use Knife Talk 10, you're going to get 10% off that price as well of that steel. So that's a big saving to be made. Look online, look for some inspiration from other makers out there. They're making some beautiful stuff, and you could do that too with 10% off. Okay.
Hollywood. I actually have a friend named Holly Wood.
Would she?
How dare you, sir? This is an outrage. This is an outrage.
Oh, would she?
This is an outrage. Outrage.
Okay, Mareko, do you want to take the next question?
Yes.
Sorry for interrupting. I also, at any time you want, I have unsolicited advice. I have hot takes. I have DMs of positivity at your leisure. Whatever you want.
Do we want to jump there?
Let's do one more question. One more question. Okay. Maybe we'll get some positivity into us.
All right. This is from Steve-O Stevens. He says, I'm a new maker from South Africa. I would like to know what your processes are for being able to remove a hidden tang handle after gluing all the pieces together in order to shape the handle without it being stuck to the blade. As I'm new, I'm still clumsy around the grinder, so scared to mess up the blade by mistake. Thanks for the great podcast. Any tips, advice?
Maybe. Geoff, you could take this because I know you had an issue with a hidden tang blade of Florentine blades, kitchen knives. You had one of theirs and you messed up something on the handle or something wasn't quite right. Did you try and remove the handle then, or did you just scrap the thing?
If I grind too far, then I remove the handle. But I'm a big fan of grinding the knife on the handle on the knife. I'm not a fan of taking it off and grinding it separately. For some reason, I feel like I need the whole thing together. I'm also a big fan of taping the shit out of the knife. I don't use masking tape when I tape the blades up. I use I have a pile of t-shirts and rags and electric tape, and I wrap it up. Sometimes I've nicked the heel before. Nicked the heel on a grinder. I've done that before. But I try to be as careful as possible. Now, what you could also do is, as we've talked about before, is bedding the tang. Bedding the tang is where you do a drill your hole so your tang fits in with a lot of slop. You put in the epoxy into the hole. You put some wax on the tang and the end of the bolster. You drive it in, or you put it in. You glue it up, and then you heat the bolster up. It releases from it heats up the wax, releases from that mold, and you have like a mold, a positive and negative mold of where your tang fits in direct, and then you can take it apart and put it back together, and then that's how you can do that. And we've talked about it in the past. Also, I feel like Nick Wheeler did a video on it.
He did.
Nick Wheeler's YouTube channel, so that's also if you want to watch about that. But I mean, those are the two ways to go about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we have some positive DMs?
We have one DM of positivity from
Is everybody pissed that we've been gone?
Well, there has been a lot, for some reason, there has been a lot of like people don't get upset about it. You know, like I've been mentioning a million times, Howard Stern dropped on his listeners that he's taking the entire summer off. The whole summer, and he doesn't. Most of these radio guys don't say when they're going on vacation because they just know people are going to be pissed. He took off the whole summer. That was part of his deal. $500 million, no summer. So he's got the whole summer off. So we just took 2 weeks off. So it's fine. This DM of positivity comes from Brigham Kendall. Good vibes. Last weekend, my boy and I got to meet Josh Smith, who had a booth at an archery event, and we got to talk for a while. I got a little bit of mercy from him, including some axe wax, and then he gave my kid a shirt, which made his day. I love our community.
Nice.
That's great.
Whilst we're on community, we've had something in our live chat here. Grateful Knives said, "I'm grateful for this chat. Let me get to know Jacko. We became mates, and I'll go visit him in Canada, and he's going to come to me in the Netherlands. So thanks, guys."
Pen
Wow.
pals.
Pen
How
pals in the
nice.
chat. Wow.
Pen pals in the chat. Look at you. Look at you.
Cool.
We have hot takes, unsolicited advice. We have a pile of unsolicited advice. We got some good hot takes. And
Let's do a
How about some hot takes?
okay. As you all know, hot takes are basically, you know, it would be nice if you guys were a little bit more nuanced and just not bitching. I'd like a little bit of like nuance. I had a couple of nuanced ones, and some of them are so bad I just like delete. It's just not. I can't. The first one comes from. Well, we got Andrew Lichtenstein says, "I got a beef. I got to be at work when KTP goes live. Haven't been able to tune in. Need to call out sick." It's not really a hot take. I just read it for some reason. Brotherhood Blade says, "Here's a hot take. Bragging about freehand grinding is the same as bragging about your Pokemon card collection at 35. No one cares." I like that one. I like
nice.
that. I want more metaphors, guys. Give me metaphors. I want metaphors.
Wait,
Yeah.
news just in.
Metaphors are good.
Andrew Lich, who just said that he made to call in sick. He's here today. He's called in sick.
He called in sick. Good for you, Andrew.
Jesus.
He called out sick. He just said, "I called out sick." He's here. We did it.
Oh,
We did it.
wowzers.
Your
Show's
beef
for
is
you,
no
Andrew.
longer- This one's for you and Jocko. Andrew and Jocko get the whole treatment. I do like Brotherhood's Knives thing. I do think that like we get a little bit too like, you got to do it like this, you got to do it like this. This is bullshit, and this is.
Yeah.
I like the Pokemon card collection at 35. It's good. All right, so Lonely Knives says, "Here's a hot take. People who use a file as a sanding stick have the nuts the size of Jeff's blue ball bag."
Well, thank you.
I have to. Do you use a file as a sanding stick?
Yeah.
Wow.
A sharp file?
Oh, no, not a shot. I mean, I ground the teeth off.
Oh, it's not a file. Then, right?
Okay.
Well, why the fuck would you use a file? Why wouldn't you take the teeth off? It's still hardened steel.
He
And I'll tell you, I've caught it.
Big balls.
on
You
the
got
blade.
big balls then. I have to make an admission. I was talking to Aaron Goff for a while, and he's been all over me about using those mold
Polishing
sticks,
stones.
mold polishing stones. And I used it. I got some inexpensive ones, think I might be using them more often.
Or
They're
the die
really-
maker stones.
Yeah. The problem is people use them the long way and they say they break. You're not supposed to use it like a sanding stick. You use it on the edge and you use it like you're poking at it.
Yeah.
Things are pretty good because they don't get gummed up. But I don't know. I use it for
early days.
Here's a hot take from Makesmith. People should start practicing saying, "I'm sorry, I don't know enough about this to have an opinion." He's right. He's right.
True.
That's my whole move. My whole move is I don't know nothing. Or if you really want to make it a better hot take, and not just "I'm sorry, I don't know enough about it to have an opinion." The real hot take would be you should say, "I'm sorry, I don't care enough to have an opinion. I could care less." That would be the real hot take. I don't care enough to know. That would be the hot take. Chris Rosendahl says, maybe here's a hot take. Grinder contact wheels are getting too big. I'm talking about those 14-inch plus ones that make the 72-inch grinder that looks like the 72-inch grinder is a penny farthing. Penny farthing. What the fuck is a penny farthing?
Penny farthing. You don't. Okay.
I'm asking. I remember that part where he says it'd be nice if somebody says, "I'm sorry, I don't know enough about this to have opinion." I'm saying, "I'm sorry, I don't know what the fuck a penny farthing is." What's
Penny
a
farthings were the first sort of bicycles. So you remember they had this massive wheel on the front with fixed pedals.
Oh yeah.
There's no chain. Massive front wheel and a tiny wheel on the back. You must have had when you were a kid, Geoff.
I had a big wheel. I had a big wheel, but I did not have. No. I would think that the penny farthings will come back. If the wheels were probably easier to make, I bet they make a comeback in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
There's hipsters
in
London.
Brooklyn.
I bet you.
You know it.
Top hats, little squirrely mustaches. I can see it now. Yeah,
with the steampunk. We're gonna put some rivets and some airplane goggles on. And the last one is from John Eiler. Here's a hot take. Doesn't matter what the finish or how long you spent on it. Any finish done poorly is a shit finish.
Yeah.
Look at you, John Eiler. Doesn't matter how much time. If it doesn't look good, it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
No excuses.
Okay. Mareko, tell me about your favorite grinder.
My favorite grinder.
Not your favorite grinder profile that you regularly look up.
Okay.
I mean,
I was going to say Jonathan, but you're talking about the Broadbeck.
Yes.
Geoff is so confused right now. Everybody listening.
No, I'm looking. Yes, I'm confused. I don't know who Jonathan is. Good God bless him.
He's on Grinder.
Oh.
Jonathan Porter.
Oh.
It's our boy. My Broadbeck. I love my Broadbeck. It's a great machine. I've been using the buffing arm attachment lately, and it's been pretty damn handy, especially for cleaning up my Damascus billets. What I've been doing lately is I'll let that billet sit in like a phosphoric acid overnight. The next day I come in and I put a wire wheel on it. It's the same size wire wheel that you would use on an angle grinder because it's got the 5/8 arbor. And man, it just rips all that scale and cleans it up really nicely. But it's been beautiful to use it. I also just got a hold of the new deep platen, and I've been loving that. I actually modified it just a little bit to be a little bit deeper. But it's been really nice to have that extra room to move around, and it's still the long platen, so that you have all that extra length for all your grinding good times. And yeah, so the Broadbeck grinders are awesome because they're made by makers for makers, and not just any makers. These two guys are freaking geniuses. They're both engineers, super smart guys, and they've built a great machine. It works horizontally and vertically. They got all types of attachments. If you don't need a chassis, they've designed their tool arms to be cross-platform. So if you have a different chassis that accepts a 1.5-inch tool arm, you can throw a Broadbeck grinder arm attachment on there. They got the disc grinder attachment. They got the surface grinder attachment. They got the buffing arm attachment. They got the small wheel. They got the integral. They got all kinds of shit. So you got to go check them out. You go to brockbeck.com. You can save yourself. Again, it's 10%. Is that right? With Knife Talk 10. And
think so,
and the shipping's included in the United States. Shipping's included with the price of the machine. So it's a hard one to beat. Honestly, I actually don't know if you can beat that deal and the flexibility that they offer. I love the Brockbeck.
And they're good dudes, and they're very. If you have questions, for sure, reach out to Ryan and their Instagram page. I think that Fiery Ice and Forge. I think Ben Seacrest is now doing their Instagram. He's involved with that.
Okay, cool. And they ship internationally too. That's always good to know. I want to take one more. I've just been looking at the questions really quickly, and I do want to take one quickly. So, Sharpen Socks. It says, question for Craig. I restore old knives and cleavers, and he's looking, where can I find handle material and mosaic pins in Europe? And I think specifically in Belgium. He's currently getting his handle material from France by Etsy. Belgium is our sort of neighbor here in France, and I'd recommend Mercon, so MERCORNE.fr. They're brilliant. I get lots of stuff from them. So yeah, handle materials, mosaic pins, all that kind of stuff. Mercon are brilliant. And also the other one is GFS Knife Supplies. They're in the UK, but they ship all over Europe. Like next day, they're amazing. So yeah, if you look for handle materials, those are the two places to go, and they'll definitely ship to Belgium.
I have one last question. I'm sorry, because I want to erase all the hot takes, and I want to just break the fourth wall down. I want to clear out all the files. There's one question that slipped in here that I just want to kind of ask you guys this, and then I'll be done. And then next week we'll do all unsolicited advice. We don't need any more hot takes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
We got plenty to work through. This one comes from Robert Corner. He says, "Hey man, I got a question. Do any of you have wrist, finger, or hand problems? And if so, what do you do to keep and so how do you keep doing what you're doing? So if you got wrist problem, finger problems, hand problems, how do you keep working and dealing with the problems? Does that make sense?"
Yeah. I've always had really bad circulation, particularly for my feet and my hands.
Really?
Yeah. So that was one of the reasons to learn to play guitar and piano. So they're always being used because that's the best thing to do. Just keep using them. So I'd suggest that. Not that I'm any sort of surgeon or anything. So if you've got tendon problems, that kind of thing, maybe that's not the way to go. But if it's a case of bad circulation, which I really do suffer with, keeping them moving, keep doing stuff and strengthen them up.
How does that affect you?
Stiff joints, particularly in the mornings, far worse in the winter in colder weather. And I'll generally, my extremes get colder really quickly, so my hands and my feet.
Penis.
Not so much. Plenty of blood flow there.
Penis has got plenty of blood flow, huh? Good to hear.
But it's down to blood flow basically. So obviously circulation. So yeah, I find piano and guitar helps massively.
Really?
But I do find, when I'm making knives, I'm generally working on batches, doing the same thing over and over again. So I do find that particularly my wrists, can get tired very, very quickly. So I make a bunch of tools to help me. So for example, with these folders, the blades, they were laser cut out, but the actual blades then, when you're doing the bevels on them, you haven't got much to hold on to. And it doesn't take long before your fingers and your thumb really sort of start cramping up. So I made sort of like a handle with a pin on there to keep them in place. Right. So it's just adapting and making things to help you, not strain basically. Yeah, that's, if it is a case of circulation, I'm not saying it is, but if it is a case of circulation for him, keep them active and, make plenty of jigs and tools that will help you along the way.
I mean, the ergonomics in forging is something that's been an issue for a lot of people. There are a lot of people who forge in ways that might not be best for them. There's a lot of people who, there's a lot of things. I think the real issue is, it's the first time you do anything for a long time, it sucks until you kind of figure out ways in which to kind of adapt. It's like running. You run the first time and you're like, this is the worst thing in the world. It's just going to take a while to figure it out. In regards to, there are certain times where like hand sanding can, like if I'm hand sanding for weeks on end, I do have to kind of stop. I made a sanding stick once and I thought I was being clever and it was all ergonomic. And as I was holding, it was a push stick. I made a push stick and it pushed into my hand, my palm of my hand so hard. It like, I did like a Vulcan nerve pinch on a nerve in my hand. So for 2 days, my hand was numb and I couldn't figure out why. And it was because this fucking, light bulb knob sized push stick was too much. It was pushing into my hand and knocked it out.
Well, you guys are probably going to laugh at this, but I've spent like the last maybe 10 days at an anvil. And, I generally don't do any sort of anvil work. And all I've been doing is just peening brass pins into the brass handles for these folders. And at first, my anvil isn't set up because I don't do any forging. So at first I just put it on, on quite a high bench, and I've done a few, and it's quite high up, and I can have a good view of what I'm doing. But after sort of 2 hours of that, even though I'm only just peening these tiny little brass pins, the bottom of my arm there is aching like hell, and it's like, geez, what about you guys who do forging? But then I realized I've just got this anvil way up in the air. It needs to come a lot lower,
Yeah.
So it's a lot of the time is maybe just stepping back and seeing, well, look at my sort of shape on this. Obviously, I'm going to be in sort of some sort of pain. So that's my anvil story for you. Craig's anvil story of the week.
Look at you, anvil injuries, first injury. Nice, nice. When I get tennis elbow, I get it in my managing hand.
Is that what you call it? The managing hand.
There you go. That's right. Yeah, the managing hand.
Stephen Connor in the chat has said lots of stretching exercises to do before forging. That helps with the wrist and elbow mobility. Yeah.
I know. And stop being a pussy. I know my back doesn't have anything to do with this, but I have noticed that my back, I'm just getting older and I can't grind the way I used to, which used to be just hours on end. And I just have to take more frequent breaks. And if there's a certain task or something that you're doing and you're finding, especially if it's, in your hands or in your feet or your back, whatever it is, if you just break that up with range of motion, and it doesn't have to be a long break or anything, but just a lot of the things we're doing when we're doing this craft is very stagnant motion, unless you're forging. Forging is probably the most movement, but anything at the grinder or at the drill press is very stagnant. So if you just take a step back and roll your neck or do wrist rolls and exercises through your hands and fingers and stuff, just take those breaks every whatever is going to work for you. I find I have to stop like every 20 minutes when I'm grinding. I just have to. But I'm only stopping for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, just to do some neck rolls and shit like that, just to help break it up. Because if I'm just locked in that position the whole time for an hour and a half, 2 hours, it's going to kill me. But if I break it up, it's not going to be as bad.
Yeah. And let's say it's something like hand sanding. It's going to help if you're using good stuff. And the best stuff to use is obviously Rhino Wet from Indasa. It's what I use, it's what Geoff uses, what Mareko uses. I know a lot of people who watch the show are now using it, and they've thanked us for it. So yeah, use good stuff. You can't get better if you're hand sanding than using Rhino Wet by Indasa. But we can also get you a discount. If you go to texasfarriersupply.com, you'll get 10% off that order. But the good thing is they don't only do Rhino Wet. They do lots and lots of stuff for knife makers. So go have a look. TexasFarrierSupply.com. They've got a whole section there for knife makers. And if you use Knife Talk 10, you're going to get 10% off. And remember to tell them where you heard that.
And just to let you know, if you listen to the latest episode of the Full Blast podcast, we covered a story about this woman on OnlyFans or TikTok who did a massive video where she shaved her legs with 600 grit sandpaper.
Oh, wow.
It was like, it was a story because it was like she shaved her legs with 600 grit sandpaper. And then I did a plug for Rhino Wet. So if you're going to, go to Texas Farrier Supply to get your leg shaving materials, get yourself some 600 because I hear it works.
We've got somebody in the chat who is Portuguese, and they're from, I think it's Aveiro, which is the hometown of the Indasa factory. Who would have thought? But,
Dude.
Wow.
Yeah, you must have a Rhino Wet on tap there. That must be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just like, if instead of the leaves are falling from the trees, it's
Yeah.
like sheets of 600 grit.
He wipes his ass with 2,000 grit.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, of course. There's the coasters, all the coasters in the house. The kids are writing their homework on 2,500 grit. It's great.
Okay, I think that's a show. I think we've covered virtually everything. Let's just quickly do our hopes and dreams for the week, just because I like the jingle, and we've been pretty free on jingles today. We haven't done many. Mareko, what's your hopes and dreams for the week? Where would you like to be this time next
Hopes
week?
and dreams. Yeah. Back in the shop, out of having a nice break from the vacation, or with the vacation, is also giving me time. I've been talking about on the podcast about kind of planning some educational content, and so I've been doing some of that work too, kind of storyboarding things and organizing how I'll make that work, and just kind of getting back to the shop and being productive again, and being smart about how I'm using my body.
Nice.
I'm excited.
Nice. We're excited about how you use your body, Mareko.
Yeah, baby. It's all in the hips.
Jeff, what's the big dream for the week?
I would like to send my dream to our friend Steve Pellegrino, who I talked to over while I was in Wisconsin. He was in a car accident, a crazy freak car accident. He was driving with his girl, and a branch fell through the sunroof, hit him in the head, gave him some lacerations on the head, but it cracked a couple of spine parts, some vertebrae. So I talked to him. He's a friend of his. He's too proud to do anything about it. I talked to him a couple times. He's going to be he's out of the hospital. He is going to be in recovery for a while. I don't think they're going to be doing surgery. I think it's going to be something along the lines of just kind of like it's going to heal on its own in a certain way, but he's got to be out of the shop for a while. So a friend of his put up a GoFundMe. I don't know. I don't have a link offhand. I don't really need to put it up. I think there's probably enough people who have put up on it, and he knows about it. I was very hesitant to talk about it because I didn't know if that was something he wanted to be involved with. He said I forgot. He told me, he says, just be tasteful, Jeff. Just be tasteful. You don't have to bring it up on the podcast. And I'm just remembering that part of our conversation. So I'm being tasteful now, Steve. I'm being tasteful. He's sitting pretty, hoping to get him back in the shop soon. There is a GoFundMe to help him out. He's going to have some, not being in the shop for a while and probably some medical bills. So, sending our best to Steve Pellegrino. Great guy.
Yeah. Okay. My hopes and dreams for the week. I hope in that I'm waking up tomorrow not feeling as heavy and as rough as I've been feeling. Would be nice. I've got a gig on Thursday, so the day before we do our next podcast, and it's our first gig with this new band, and we've only been, we've probably done 4, maybe 5 rehearsals together. That's all, and we've got our first gig, so there's a lot going on, a lot of practice I need for that. These folders, I'm hoping to get them done and hopefully launched within, maybe not next week, the week after. But I'm trying to come up with an idea for the first sort of 20 sold to make them a bit more unique. It's just a complete marketing exercise to get people buying, basically. So that may be some sort of specific lasering on them or something like that.
Yeah.
So so there's a bit of work to be done there, and some photography, all that kind of stuff, ready for launch. So yeah, it's a fun-filled week, lots going on, and again, just the management of these bunch of monkeys currently working on the house, who can't seem to even make their own lunch at the moment. It's not.
You
good.
treat him too
You're
nice.
making lunch for them?
Yeah, you treat him too nice.
Are you giving them beer too?
They're having beers occasionally. Yeah. Yeah.
What a guy.
But it's just one of those things. Yeah.
I'll fly over and slam some nails for you.
Yeah, that's what she said.
There he is. We haven't had one of those vacation.
But yeah, it's literally all hands on deck, ready to get. We need to be in the house October, and we've got two little ones here running around. Anything that
Right.
looks slightly dangerous, they're sort of drawn to, like magpies. So we need to make sure everything's ready and ship shape, ready for them. So yeah, it's all fun and games.
Damn
But
kids.
yeah, I think that is a show. Thank you all for listening in the chat. Andrew, Craig, will you ever play us a sample on that axe behind you? Nah, I don't think so. Don't think so. These mics got really heavy compression on them, and guitar doesn't come over really well on it at all. That's my excuse.
That's a good excuse. I was like a radio excuse.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you all for those who've been in the chat with us live. It always makes the show for us, having that sort of interaction with people. Alec doesn't do that on his show, Jacko.
Certainly doesn't.
He doesn't put that kind of effort in.
Do you think
Yeah.
Jocko is still
Never
here?
question that again, Jacko.
Yeah,
Is
Jacko.
Jocko still here? If he's not here, he's banned. If he's not here in the next 3 seconds, you don't write something in the next 3 seconds, banned from listening to this podcast. Jocko,
3,
you got big problems,
2.
Jocko. Come on, Jocko. I believe in you. Banned.
Oh,
Damn.
that's it.
Jocko's
Failed.
banned.
He tailed
God
off.
damn it. He went off to
All
go
that.
what? There he is!
oh, there he
there
is.
he is in the last minute. He's not banned. All right. Jocko rules. Slid right in there. Nice.
Thank you
Not bad.
all for listening, and we shall speak to you all next week.
This show is brought to you by The Makery, the podcast network for makers.
Whew.
That was fun.
I was really anxious about my connection.
Yeah,
But
great.
I feel so much
Fine.
better now.
Super fun.
Yeah, it worked out well. I think before we went live, the three of us were having issues, connection-wise, but yeah, somehow it's held together, thankfully.
I would like
shit,
to
you know what?
propose. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I would
was
like
just
to
gonna say really-
propose. Are we having something?
Fucking delay.
Go ahead.
The
You
delay.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go. I just remembered that Quentin's thing. I think people are still hearing.
Hmm.
Quentin successfully funded his Kickstarter,
Yeah,
and I think that our listeners definitely had a hand in helping with that and spreading the word. And I just want to thank everybody who did, because that's a fucking major. That's incredible to get that Kickstarter funded. That's really an awesome feat. And now he's opened it up to international shipping, so anybody around the globe can now get in on that Kickstarter and get a ONA.
Has
And
he? Okay, because when I
yeah.
last checked, he wasn't shipping it because I couldn't back it because it wasn't done internationally.
right,
And I
yeah,
can
it
still
was
back
once
it
it
out.
became
There's
fully
still a-
funded. Yeah,
There's still
and
a week to go
there's
as
a
well.
week. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Cool. So yeah, he's
get it in before it's too late.
20% above his goal as well. That's amazing.
Wow,
That's fantastic.
that's incredible. That's
wow.
so awesome.
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Yeah, that's cool.
The
That's
best.
Cool. So if you have backed him, thank you all very much. That's I mean, I'm saying that it's only us three here now, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
100%. They don't know about this.
They don't. Yeah, this is the secret.
I would like to propose, Craig, you really do need to record one song from your band and play it at like the end of the after show or something.
Possibly.
Throw
you
up
really
a live.
should.
Turn your phone on and do a live stream at the thing.
No, I don't think so. I do not
Yeah.
think so.
Come
this is a
on.
very
Live streams suck.
yeah. The
Live
audio
streams-
is terrible. It'd be
Live
terrible.
streams suck.
But it's
I'm
a
so
real-
done with Instagram Live. I'm
It's
not
a
done with
real
it.
sort of low key affair. So we have these. It's July and August here in France. You have these. I always talk about the night markets where everybody gets together and in the whole village and stuff. But it's like the big village around here. So it's our sort of local town, I suppose. So every Thursday they have music and they've got a big stage there and stuff. But the talent we've seen in previous weeks. Put it this way: we've only rehearsed 5 times, and I think we'll
You're
be
gonna
okay.
kick it up a
Oh,
notch.
I think we'll be
So-
okay.
Nice.
You're
Yeah.
already getting competitive.
Oh, completely.
That's awesome. So who's
I-
opening for you?
Yeah, you too. But yeah, my wife.
Us two?
Yeah,
Oh.
my wife makes me laugh because I'm like, I take it like super serious. Like every evening, I'm like here in the studio, like practicing the songs. So, but basically we've been learning 3 songs every new rehearsal. So we go over all the songs that we've done previously, and we'll learn 3. So it's quite full on, And already I can see like the drummer's not into it as much as us. And like last week,
Oh,
he couldn't come, so we
no.
had something on. So like, to my wife, I'm just like, I think I just need to get rid of the drummer, get a new drummer in now, and she's just like, just relax and enjoy yourself. So like, I'm getting ready. I've got all my stuff together, and I'm about to leave now for rehearsal. She's like, no, enjoy yourself. So as I left, and I tapped on the window outside the house, and I went, it's not about enjoyment. It's about being the best.
I don't blame you.
You're never going to be happy. And I'm like,
So
well, quite true. Quite
how are we
true.
going to motivate the drummer?
He's a drummer. Throw bananas at them, you know. I don't think it takes.
We
much.
need to figure out a way as a podcast so we can motivate the drummer. We have to figure it out, because I am 100% with you. You're paying attention and you're practicing, and are you singing too?
So
Are
I've
you the
taken
lead
on-
singer?
Yeah, I've taken on, like, I'm playing keyboards, guitar, I'm
Oh,
singing,
man.
and
You've
I'm
been-
doing sort of arranging everything, you know. So I'm like,
Oh,
we're
my
rehearsing
God.
today at this time, whatever, and it's like fully consuming me, you know, this thing.
I know.
But that's,
You got to get rid of. You have to figure out a way for the drummer to unconsciously be motivated.
Yeah.
Something.
I mean, it's like with this podcast, I've fallen really lucky because you two are just as committed as I am to this. But imagine if we had somebody who wasn't, how frustrating that would be. And with everything I do, I'm the same. If I'm going to do it, I'm 1,000 miles an hour, and I'm invested completely. And he doesn't seem to be as invested.
Well, what does he do?
What do you mean?
Well, what does he do that like makes you know that he's not invested? Is he just like on his phone the whole time?
No, he'll turn up and he hasn't like practiced the songs, and he's like, "Well, this is practice," and I'm like, "No, this isn't practice. This is rehearsal. You do the practicing in your own time. You come in ready to rehearse."
Right.
Have you had words with him already?
Oh yeah.
Bad words?
yeah.
You have had bad words?
I'm a proper dictator. I'm honestly, I'm the Mick Jagger of the band. There,
Wait.
He's a band manager. Wow.
You must retell a story of when you got hot under the collar with the drummer, please. The microphone is yours.
I mean, the good thing is he speaks very little English. And to be honest, the rest of the band don't speak much English, and I don't speak much French.
Oh my God!
So it's quite easy. So it's quite easy for me to say, "Well, come on." And he's saying, "I'm here to rehearse, to practice." And when I'm like, "No. We all practice when we're at home. We're ready. When we come in, we're ready to go." And he's like, "Oh, I don't know this song, but and I'm just like, "Oh, come on." So it got to the point where we rehearsed. For example, we rehearsed yesterday, which was Thursday. Wednesday night, I was up till 4 a.m. Listen, programming a drum track, just so he could listen to the drum track, and I just literally say,
Holy
just copy,
shit.
just copy this.
You should just replace him with the drum track.
It's
You thought about it.
Stays on time at least. Yeah.
So let me just be clear. You guys are arguing in passive aggressive pidgin French or pidgin English?
A bit of both.
Because passive aggressive, that's being passive aggressive is
Yeah.
completely, that's the universal language.
But the French, even when they're saying something complimentary, they're barking at each other, they're shouting, So it's quite hard. So when I'm sort of losing my temper with him, I think he just thinks, "Oh, it's fine." It's
Yeah.
it's just whatever.
What's the worst thing you've said to him?
I haven't said anything bad, but I've literally said, you come here to rehearse. We don't practice here. We take this seriously.
And what did he say to that?
Yeah, exactly. Literally just the shrug,
Get rid of him. Give him the axe. Well, you'll know.
Don't there's many drummers around here. That's the biggest problem we've got.
What if you made him nervous? What if you pretended like you were going to stream and say, "I got my 10,000 followers are going to be watching us a live stream. You better get your shit together."
Ambition, I find in France is very different to what I've been brought up with. Let's put it that way. Yeah,
that's socialists. Socialists lack ambition, don't they?
Yes, So it's quite a funny one. But
I would imagine that this is one of the. This is the reason why bands don't stick together, because if one guy is like,
not as
hot
committed.
dogging it and half-assing it. They're just like, we're spending all this time doing this, and you're just not pulling your weight.
Yeah, and I know it's my issue as well because it's meant to
I
be
don't
fun.
think it is.
But I make it so it's not fun. I'm quite aware of it. So,
Is that true?
So they've all been emailed like. So basically, I'll record the tracks completely, and I'll play the bass parts. I'll play my bits, and I'll send each of them a version with their bit missing, so they can practice. And I think they're all just like, this bloke is mental, And I'm just like, just doing what I need to do, But
how old are they?
They're mid-30s.
Oh, so you're the oldest guy?
Slightly, yeah, slightly.
Oh, so you're like the teacher.
Yeah, but I'm the least like musical of them. So like our bass player, he teaches in the local music school, and he's just like we play and he'll just play along. He doesn't need to practice. He
knows what he needs to do.
Yeah. But it's quite funny because he's very he's sort of like classically trained, I suppose. So like we're playing and so we do covers and we do our own songs as well. But mainly covers of them. I'd say 80% of the set is covers because it's easiest to learn them quickly. And we do a version
crowd pleasers.
Yeah, exactly. So we do a version of 20th Century Boy, which is like an old T-Rex, like 70s like rock song.
Sure.
And at the end, it just stays on this one chord for ages. And myself and the other guitarists, we sort of riff with each other for a little bit. And he's like, well, how many bars? So like I know when to finish. I'm like, well, we don't know how many bars. We'll see. And he's just like, he can't grasp. He's like amazing musician, but he can't grasp that. 8 bars we finish, and he's just like, well, how will I know when we finish? He's like, well, we'll know. We'll.
You just got to give him the nod.
It'll come to a natural. Yeah, we'll come to a natural end. Give the drummer a nod. He'll do a little fill. That's the
sounds
end.
like the drummer's on a nod.
Yeah, but he's freaking out. Like, well, is it going to be 16 bars? Is it going to be 8? I'm like, we don't know. We don't know. So yeah, it's funny. Like again, it's almost like managing everybody's. I wouldn't say expectations. Personality, exactly. And that's what I'm finding with all these bloody builders and electricians and plumbers. They're all like trying to like flex on each other, So we've got the electrician going over to the plumber saying, is that pipe big enough? It's just like, well, you're an electrician, you do your job, and everybody's flexing, and it's just like, oh,
pipe
man.
big enough.
It's
big
crazy.
enough for your mother didn't have a problem with it. That's what you would. Your mother. I love a good your mother. Your mother was perfectly happy with it. Electrician, how you like them apples? I think it's great. I've the only question I basically have for you about the band. I love it. What's the name of the band again? Is it the
Uplift?
Uplift.
What
in your just don't think about your other bandmates. What is your dream for this band? What if the best thing that could happen? What would it be?
Oh, the best thing that can happen is just that we all, we do like local gigs occasionally, and maybe maybe occasionally we may, I'd love to play like a festival somewhere. I'd love that. But we know we're never going to be a big band, and we're never going to get like a record deal or any of those kind of things. But maybe once a year we'd go in the studio and record a few songs, just for the experience of it. Yeah, it would be fun just for the experience.
Yeah,
and play an odd festival over the summer would be great.
How excited are you for your first gig on Thursday?
Extremely.
Will you give us the story of lugging all the stuff and who didn't show up and this guy got drunk?
We'll have a full breakdown in the after show next week.
We need a full. I'm gonna be there's a lot I need to know.
Okay.
I need to know a lot.
Okay.
How do you bring your all equipment, and who did the sound check, and what did you say during the sound check? I need all that.
That's the bit I'm really nervous about, the sort of interaction between songs, because we're in rehearsals and we'll play a song, then that sounded okay, maybe you tune up the monitor a little bit, or right, let's have a tune up again, ready for the next song. And when you're performing live, it's a performance. You need to be able to slide seamlessly between songs, and there's be a little bit of banter with with an audience. And as the guy sort of up front, I don't really speak much French, so thankfully
that's better.
thankfully, a lot of these night markets, a lot of Brits, and because the locals, they get bored. It's the same every year. They get pretty bored. So it's the tourists and all that kind of thing that go to these, and they love them. They're, this is great. This is great. So there will be lots of English speakers there. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. But that's weird. That's the bit I'm really nervous. Not the singing and the guitars and the keyboards. The actual playing. I'm not nervous about at all. But I'm nervous about those gaps and making it a show.
Oh, come on! You've been doing podcasting for years. You can't
about plunge lines between bloody.
You just say
I can't get no satisfaction, and
Yeah. What's the set list? You want to share a few from the set list?
You finish off that I can't get no satisfaction. They all finish, and you say that's what she said.
We finish with a belter. So they're an American band. I don't know if they're big or in America. The Killers. Do you know the Killers in?
Sure.
Yeah.
In the US? Yeah. So that all these things that I've done, and in the middle it goes bum 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 bum, and it's just like a big breakdown. And it does the whole "I've got soul, but I'm not a soul."
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
builds up and builds up. That's our sort of final song, and that sounds pretty epic. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Love it.
And what are you gonna wear?
I've got like a sequined. No,
Get the fuck out of here! No, really, seriously.
You're dressed like Liberace.
No. I'm literally wearing a pair of jeans and a black t-shirt. Standing.
That's your normal move.
Which I know it's boring, I know, but I'm bloody 40 odd. I'm not, I'm not some young hipster with tight jeans on and a vest. So yeah.
Black t-shirt's good because it'll hide the sweat.
Exactly. Yeah.
Will you be drinking during the show?
One beforehand, a loosener. Yeah, just a loosener. I've got a tip here from Grateful Knives. Make sure I don't mute myself.
Good one, Grateful. Good one, Grateful.
Brilliant.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
It is exciting, and it's I'm living out a fantasy that I've had for years and years and years and years. But I'm a million miles an hour into it. My wife's just like, calm down. I'm like, no, I've got to buy like a full PA system. And she's like, no, why? Because the venue's going to have one for rehearsals. So, and I'm spending a lot of money. She's just like, just calm down.
I think the new bar might be the rehearsal space pretty soon.
It's way too small. Jeez. Way too small.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How many people in the band?
Is it? Yeah, I
Four.
was going to ask.
Four of us.
Four plus four, including you?
Including me. So, I mean, a drummer will take up, the size of this room, just himself.
Four is good. Are you getting paid for this gig?
Not really so much, no. But what we are getting is a rehearsal room for free.
That's good.
For a whole year. So it's all.
Somebody's got to give you the booze, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Throw some underwear at you.
Jacko's still here. What kind of instruments are in the band? It's pretty standard sort of 4-piece. There's drummer, bass, and 2 guitars. And I also a little bit of keyboards in some of the songs as well that I do as well. But that's it.
Very good. Can't wait to hear it. Must say.
When are you back from your vacation now, Mareko?
We get back Sunday afternoonish, and then I have an important phone call again.
Oh.
Things have been going through with contracts, all very positive. So now it's time to go shopping.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So the Momassi shoe brand is nearly. Oh.
That's right.
Boots.
Yeah.
Boots.
I keep dropping myself in it. Sorry. Okay, that sounds cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Aren't you going to ask about we finally have the story for the balls?
Ah, yes. Are you prepared to tell everybody now?
100%.
Okay, let's bring you up on the big screen. Okay. Let's bring you up on the big screen. Wait there, where are you? Lean right
I'm
into
here
the
with
mic.
bated breath.
If you can lean right into the mic.
Okay. So before I left for vacation, I got sent this pair of testicles from someone,
as you do,
as you do. That they're truck nuts. They're truck nuts, and I got them from.
Oh, let's have a drum roll for this. I'm just queuing up a.